Trying to figure out how to share this on my Facebook page, and then we'll get started. This is Jason. Thanks for joining. Welcome to Artisan Politics, I think. I don't know how much of a rough start that is. Welcome to Artisan Politics, I think. Yep. All right. Now I still need to get the timing right between the stream that I see and the stream you're seeing, which is slightly off kilter. Thanks for joining. Let me copy the link for the Hangout. I'm trying something new on this podcast for streaming purposes. I just posted a link in the chat stream that lets you access Google Hangouts. So if you want to help me test that out, just pop in there and we'll have a chat, see if that works. In the meantime, I'm Jason Everett Miller. This is Artisan Politics. You can go to artisanpolitics.com to read the blog and see kind of my thoughts on various and sundry topics. The format for the show is going to be kind of fluid. Mostly I have a list of 42 things that I've written down over the last several months, and I'm going to go through that list, and if somebody pops into the chat, and oops, that's what that looks like. So if somebody pops into the Hangouts, we'll have a chat. In the meantime, I'll keep chatting. I'm going to do this until I go through all 42 things on my list, and then we'll say goodbye. Anyway, first up is a quote from Alan Dershowitz, who is a total clown. You've probably seen him on the various and sundry talking head shows. The quote was, "Are crimes committed to win the presidency impeachable offenses?" And he said this in like it was even a question. And I wonder where some of these guys got their law degrees, because they all pretend like they're experts and they really seem to know very little about the actual law. That said, I've been pretty impressed with a lot of the sort of paid pundits on MSNBC, CNN, former prosecutors, former investigators from the Justice Department, providing context to the systems that have sort of snapped into place since Trump has come on board with his crazy. I used to be, fairly far left when it came to matters of sort of some government agencies and, they're out to get us or whatever. And that may or may not be true. I'm starting to think it's probably not as true as I once thought it was. Um, but despite that fact, the systems that are in place and are providing sort of that underlying structure to our society seem to be working. So I've been heartened by that. So maybe there's a chance that we can look at the specific injustices that still exist and get those fixed if there are, people of goodwill and good faith in those positions. Speaking of which, Kavanaugh went through to the Supreme Court, obviously, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why the Democratic Party won back the House, um, barely. I thought it was going to be two or three times as many seats, honestly, and I thought they would take the Senate as well. I thought there was a good chance of a veto-proof majority, but the kids didn't turn out, and I say kids in quotes because it's voters under 50 at this point, Gen X and millennials. We'll probably get to that. It's probably on my list. So what the fuck is wrong with America that, even with this horrific coverage, and ongoing just glut of information, are people just tuning out? Do they just not believe any of it? Um, Not really sure what the deal is, but it's disheartening. Because I honestly believe if we had more of us involved in the process, it would give us better results just by virtue of more numbers of people thinking different things. Um, Number three, humans are animals, barely evolved beyond base instincts, clearly. The Chinese tariffs, why capitalism is failing and falling. Um, Again, a lot of these things will seem pretty obvious to anybody on the ground. Um, Yet somehow it's always about, the stock market this and trade deal that and whatever, glossy, picture they want to paint. But the fact of the matter remains that the vast majority of people on this planet are getting screwed by capitalism. Um, they account for 4/5 of the global GDP. So chances are they're four times as more likely to be doing some hinky shit. And the fact that all of the capitalism cheerleaders constantly point to government as being the source of our problems, projection. We have the king of projection. He's really the id of capitalism ensconced in the White House. So just look at Trump, and if you think capitalism is the end all and be all of society, I think you need to check into that analysis again. All right. And the Chinese tariffs and the trade war with China is just another view of that, right? You can go find various publications that will paint this picture or that picture using the same exact data, but you always got to check the source of that information. I'm gonna pop over to the Facebook stream, see if anybody's around. Oh, we got Stephanie Sikorowski. Don't know that we've ever met in person. Let's see if this posted to my page like I wanted it to. Looks like it has. Let's add this. Anyone with Google can join the Hangout chat. All right. Let's see here. Anyhow, where were we? Okay. So I've been doing a lot of research on blogs or video podcast or podcasts in general. Most of them, from what I understand, probably aren't video, but whatever. I think that adds a little flavor. And prior to my recent research into podcasts and what's popular, I wanted to make it all PG, right? No cussing. But apparently that's not how they fucking do things in the podcast world, which I was happy to find out because most of my notes are liberally peppered with blue language. So if you have kids listening and you haven't taught them the difference of what I call daddy words, The things they shouldn't say, just because you say them, get them out now, or they're gonna hear some words they're not supposed to hear. So anyway, number five, stupid motherfuckers all over TV. Um, Most of them have no idea what they're talking about. They're just throwing gas on the fire. And, obviously, to my point of view, that seems to be more prevalent on the right hand side of people, gaslighting and cheerleading for Trump and basically telling me everything that I know, all the data that I've seen is completely immaterial. Um, they use hyperbole and they use deflection and projection and all the standard techniques of propaganda to try to distract us from the reality that's right in front of our face. Um, and I'll get into this later too, I'm sure. Actually, the next one is Steve Karnacki is still a dumb mofo. Because again, I think the media is invested in creating a certain narrative. Whereas before, and maybe they never did, I don't know. I haven't really done the research and gone back in time. I guess it seems like there was always like some sort of narrative to the news and how it was delivered, even if it was deadpan. But now it's out of control. Um, they manufacture discontent. They manufacture consent and approval and disapproval, and it's a lot of tail wagging the dog at this point. And I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, if I recognize it, I'm sure everybody else does as well. So perhaps we can understand that um, as consumers of media, we need to start demanding a different type of conversation. And I think that's what these podcasts and similar like non-traditional media are bringing to the discussion, and why they're so popular, honestly, because um, if I'm going to get opinion, I'm going to get opinion, and it's not going to be watered down. And it's hopefully it's an opinion that admits fallibility, and go from there. Anyway, yeah, Steve Karnacki. The reason Steve Karnacki burns my ass is because they keep holding him up as like this numbers guru, just like Nate Silver. These guys aren't gurus of any stretch because they totally leave every bit of context on the table when they examine these raw numbers. So they talk about X percentage turned out and X percentage voted this way or that way. And based on the last few elections, this is how we should consider those numbers. But what they don't do is dig in under the surface. Okay, these results are kind of not really in line with how we see the conversation happening in various media outlets and social media and what have you. It doesn't really account for, um, millions of people marching on DC, yet somehow the turnout, even though it was really big, granted for the midterm, off the charts, 49%. That's huge. It's the highest turnout since 46% in 1970, the year I was born. So, um, the reason for that is those new voters weren't young voters. They weren't people who had never voted. They were people who've never voted in a midterm. So they're presidential election voters. So usually the turnout there is around 50%, 53 to 56%. Hasn't gotten above 60% since the 60s. Same old story, same old song and dance, right? Your vote doesn't matter, so don't bother voting. Oh, and if you decide to vote, we're going to make it as hard as shit. Um, Depending on where you live, depending on the color of your skin, all that, obviously. Um, so the fact that they say, oh, and who are those typical voters? Well, usually they're over the age of 50. So the 2/3 of the electorate right now are Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z, now coming 18, this last election. So uh, those three generations moving forward will continue to make up the vast majority of the electorate because unfortunately older voters get older and die. I hate to say it, but we all know that's the reality of the situation. So they start to take up fewer and fewer of the population, and younger people keep getting older. I mean, it's the circle of life, right? So we account for 2/3 of the electorate, and in the next election, getting close to three-quarters of the electorate. Um, Yet we only make up one-third of the people who vote. So that's the key. If the kids, voters under 50, had turned out in the same numbers as boomers and whatever World War II generation people are left, the turnout for this midterm would have been like 65%. But every 2 years, voters under 50 continue to underperform relative to their numbers in the total amount of eligible voters. So until we change that number, nothing that any of these Steve Karnakis or Nate Silvers are telling you means a shit a bit of difference. So number 7, we need to destroy the Republican Party, ostracizing anyone who currently claims allegiance to Trump or spends airtime justifying and gaslighting. And I kind of already got into this. Um, Fortunately, none of these guys seem to realize that the internet's written in ink. So they're just letting us know who they are, what they find acceptable, the type of society they want to live in, actually lack of society. A lot of them are libertarian, which is bizarre to me. I'll probably get into that at some point. So the Republican Party as it exists today needs to go away. In my opinion, what needs to happen is all the moderate and conservative Democrats who fled the Republican Party over the last 40 years need to go back and start taking out incumbents in the primaries. While at the same time, younger, more liberal uh, Democrats need to take those seats that those guys vacate. So that'll switch the whole thing back to the left. So how about some fact-based reality? Thank you, Obama. Um, Semantics as a political tactic is number 8. Um, Absolutely. I mean, we're always debating what the meaning of the word is. I mean, that's become. I mean, it was funny back in '98 or whenever Clinton did it, but it's not funny anymore. It's fucking pathetic. We have so many sources of information, and we're just gonna let these people talk to us like we're freaking idiots. So that to me, I say caveat emptor. When you're watching these shows and shit doesn't make sense to you, fine, listen to it, but don't let it dictate or change the way you feel about a subject. Except to say, oh wow, that sounds not at all right. I should go look up that and see what's the real information is. Number 9, Me Too is a woman's movement. Male survivors are, of course, entitled to empathize and sympathize, but it's not really about them. And then I coined the hashtag He Too. Um, I'll admit that when the Me Too thing first started, I kind of came out as Me Too and didn't really get into many details, but you know, I faced you know, similar challenges as a kid, as a little boy. Actually, I was like 7 or 8. Um, but it's not really about men, and it never really was. I think it started as a woman's movement. It continues as a woman's movement. I think men, obviously, whenever somebody else gets in touch with something that's, you know, dark and buried for them, you're of course going to get in touch with the same dark and buried shit that you've been suppressing. But that shouldn't mean that you just automatically glom on to um, you know, this movement or that movement. I don't know. I think it creates unnecessary divisions. I mean, I think hashtags are plentiful. So pick one, own it, move on. All right. He too. He too. And it shows, I think, a certain amount of you know, um empathy towards the women. I mean, honestly, it took a fucking huge I mean, I can't even fathom what it took for that movement to get off the ground in the first place, and then to actually have traction, and then all the brave women who looked at that and said, you know what, I'm going to be brave too, which made me be brave actually, and a lot of men that I know be much more brave than they are. I've confronted assholes in the club in ways that I never have before, so it's doing what it should. So let's let it do what it should. Number 10, CNN versus MSNBC versus Fox versus et al. So basically, it's my contention that they're all basically the same. I don't think it's a false equivalency although false equivalencies are killing us in other ways. That's number 11. But in this case, it's the foxification of the mainstream media. It's this horse race. It's a dog eat dog. It's asking stupid fucking questions over and over again, expecting a coherent answer. Um, all of the mass media, in my opinion, sort of stumble into revelation at this point. None of them actually live up to earlier standards or even their own earlier standards as journalists. So fucking get to it. Stop asking stupid fucking questions. It's not about you. Less ego, more reporting. Ask good questions, listen to the fucking answer, ask a follow up based on what they just said. And if they're lying, call them out on it. I have seen more of that, though. I'll give you credit. Number 11, false equivalencies are killing us. Again, yes, that's very, very true. Um, uh, Mostly right now, it's everybody who is. Here we got some people joining the stream. Thank you very much for showing up. I like your stuff. I'll pop in there as I can. Oh, all right. Well, somebody left, I guess. Anyway, I probably won't pop into the stream very often, so click on that Hangouts if you got Gmail and come in there and say hi. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, false equivalency. So the it's not even a meme, that's not the right word, but sort of the analysis du jour on the mainstream media is, well, both parties XYZ, right? It to as a way of contrasting with whatever crazy shit Trump's doing. Um, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Democratic Party's failed in a lot of ways. Mostly, I think they've failed to not let the Republican Party go crazy as a fucking shithouse rat and drag the country all the way to the right and damn near to dictatorship. Dude, if fucking Trump was smarter, we'd be fucked. If Pence won, actually Pence is probably dumb as fuck too. There's some really smart motherfucker out there who thinks like those guys, but thank God they didn't end up in that chair. Um, Maybe Cheney. I don't know. He did. I mean, I don't know. I have to watch that movie. The movie Bush, the movie W by Oliver Stone made me change my opinion of Bush. So maybe Vice will soften my opinion of Cheney. I'm not sure. But if Christian Bale's still calling him the devil, I guess it probably won't. Um, so yeah, so false equivalencies are killing us, dude. Like the when the baseline is all screwed up, you can't look at anything anyone's doing and draw any sort of equivalency to it. We kind of have to take every single issue on a case by case and do the research and start fresh with opinions because um, for every bad thing the Democratic Party's doing, they've been doing a lot of good shit for a long fucking time. Number 12, stock exchanges as the method for ordering the economy is stupid. Clearly, like how did we put the most itinerant gamblers in charge of how we do things from a strategic standpoint on a global level? Like how did fucking quarterly profit margins become the number one metric? I mean, it's ridiculous. Why can't we think 7, 10 generations ahead? The reason China's going to have our lunch is because that's exactly what they're fucking doing. They just landed a drone on the dark side of the moon because they want to build a fucking international moon base. And we're talking about Space Force, not funding Space Force, mind you, not looking at the existing military assets and maybe going, hey, maybe it makes sense to make NASA the Space Force, but put them under the Department of Defense so they have the right kind of funding, just like China did. Like, let's think about things and fucking intelligently. Hey, maybe all those bases we have around the world, and I'll get to that later on. Because I actually read an opinion that changed my mind on distributed American power. The problem is we the people are fucking asleep, and that shit goes awry really quickly. So you can project power, but we have to make sure it's ethical and moral and put to good ends. And it's debatable on whether that's been true for several decades. Even under Obama, I love Obama, but dude, he bombed the shit out of brown people just like every president before him and like the current president. I do still believe common sense is a survival instinct that should kick in soon. So that's number 13. And I've gotten into several debates on Facebook over this, and it's utopia versus dystopia, right? I almost said dystopia, Sean. I had to remember dice function or dysfunction. Dystopia. Anyway, I mispronounce words all the time. My brother Sean helped me pronounce. I almost did it. Dystopia versus utopia. And I think, honestly, I think in any intelligent species, as they move from the mud to the stars, um, they're going to face that essential dilemma. And each one of those states is going to be eternally present right up until the point that one takes over and the other one goes away. And that's where we're at. I mean, it's kind of exciting if you think about it. The place where we're at right now is the crux point for humanity. Yeah, however long it's been going on, um, you know, recorded history, I don't even know, is like 12,000 years or 10,000 years or something. But like understood human history, like from the caves, is like 50,000 years. Maybe there were earlier. I don't know. I've been watching that whole ancient astronauts thing, and there's some interesting ideas. But that said, we've kind of come right up to the point where we'll either kill ourselves or we'll transcend. Mad Max versus Star Trek is the way I like to put it. So I'm going for Star Trek. I have a young son, so I have to believe that that shit's still possible, even as dire as things seem to be right now. And honestly, I think the climate crisis, I've stopped calling it climate change. It's the climate crisis because it's already outpacing all the most dire predictions from 20 years ago. So if those motherfuckers are saying we got 12 years and they're all freaking out, they're all like taking their family on awesome vacations. If climate scientists start taking awesome vacations and splurging on fucking luxuries, something's wrong. So we got to get to it, and it's in America at least, and I think probably globally. Gen X and Millennials and Z, Snap 2, TikTok. 14. That said, I think our greatest days still lie ahead. And that's really saying something because there's, been some decent days, mostly of late, which is kind of cool. But I think our best days still lie ahead. And if you think about it, everything prior to like 19, or actually anything, yeah, the late 90s, early 2000s, even a lot of that shit was really fucked up. But from an America level, anything prior to that was really shitty, and it got exponentially shittier. It was great for some people for like 20 years, but for the most part, the history of humanity has been mostly shit for most people. So of course our greatest days lie ahead. All we have to do is get through this crux, and we can do it. We can do it. 15. The youth voters still didn't show. Now approaching 50 years old, we already had this conversation. Somehow, even smart millennials aren't convinced that it matters. What the fuck? And I mean, I got jack shit to say. I didn't start voting till I was 36. The oldest of the millennials are pushing 40. So, I'm almost 50. I've been voting kind of consistently and habitually now for like 10 years. Um, so I ain't got shit to say. I wish I would have started earlier. If I could have started that in my 20s. If Gen X as a generation had started voting in their 20s at the same numbers as boomers, fucking Al Gore would have won. So there's that. Hell, fucking Reagan might have never got elected. Jimmy Carter might have won re-election. Oh no, wait, that was too early. 88. Who was fucking George? Fucking Mondale might have won. Was Mondale in 88? Just saying, things could have been very different had my generation got their shit together earlier. So I'm entreating the millennials, get your shit together earlier, because it'll help. immensely. It's exponential because there's so fucking many of us, and they keep dying. Sorry, boomers. My mom agrees, by the way. She's a boomer. I always run my fuck the boomer jokes by my mom first. If she laughs, then it's okay. It's kind of like my jokes about anybody. I run it by that demographic first, and if they laugh, then we're probably okay. Number 16. Hope and change takes patience and persistence. So that's kind of in regard to Obama. Um, obviously we all missed a huge opportunity. I think Obama missed a huge opportunity. I think in hindsight, he probably would have hit the bully pulpit from fucking day one, like 2008. As much as the Democratic Party decided recently that they want to push left, 10 years ago when Obama got elected, fucking they were not at all. Dennis Kucinich was the most liberal member of the Democratic Party in 2008. So that should tell you something. 17, fucking media are blowing it. Too much editorializing kills credibility. Cameos in movies. So that again is part and parcel of all this stupid fucking mass media bullshit. They're not newscasters. Whoever decided that, hey, we should take our, highly respected and highly credible news department and let them be featured in a fiction movie, whoever didn't understand that would have repercussions to how the reality of what people see of when you have fucking goddamn what's his name, fucking Silver Fox, fucking I always forget his name. The gay dude on CNN. Anyway, when you have him like reading news stories on the Avengers, fucking we've jumped the shark. So they need to go back to the time when movies used fake fake news channels. They had fake names and they had fake anchors and actors doing that shit. You can't have credible news people in fictional fucking movies and TV shows. It's absurd. Stop doing it. You're fucking it up for all of us. And maybe if you start having more respect for yourself, you'll start doing a better job on the air and stop putting fucking people like Rick Santorum or any half a dozen fucking Trump sycophants on the air all the time. Farting bullshit in our face all the time. It's ridiculous. All right. 18. 100th monkey syndrome. A theory of critical mass and what it takes to initiate a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift among groups and beyond. I don't know what that means. Do we have 100 monkeys yet? Can we just have a fucking paradigm shift so I can live to 400? Maybe longer. 19. Trump is simply taking advantage of a system/society primed to believe lies and reward gaslighting. And that kind of goes back into my complaints about the media. So they've been breaking down the fucking barriers between reality and fantasy for decades. And whatever, I don't think there was like some nefarious plot to condition us, but it had the same effect nonetheless. An unhappy coincidence, if you will. So, the fact that we have a reality show president isn't exactly unheard of. So maybe we should look at that because, again, it all comes back to us, the voters, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. I haven't had that much to drink, actually. Number 20, immigration propaganda. So Adam Kinzinger from Illinois needs to stop talking for vets. Oh, he must be a vet. Most aren't xenophobes. Fucking totally true. So he was just pulling the party line on the crisis at the border and all that bullshit. And we all know it's not true. The statistics fucking belie it. It's been going down for decades. Yes, they passed the Secure Fences Act in 2006. Since then, they've been beefing up the border, 700 miles worth. We'll get into that later. It's all bullshit and it's bad for you. Stop doing it. Somebody get rid of that guy. He's a Republican vet. Isn't there any Republican vets in Kinzinger's district who think more of Eisenhower than fucking Kinzinger? Kinzinger. I wish I knew his first name. Kin Zinger. 21. Male prophets versus female prophets. I don't know what that means. Maybe we need a female prophet? Oh, too many male prophets? Is that why we have a fucking patriarchy instead of a matriarchy? Actually, I'm almost to the point after seeing Nancy perform. Let's just let the women take over. Could they do any worse? I don't think so. I think there's more sociopaths among men than there is among women. And I think percentage wise, the more women we have in positions of power, the better run shit's gonna be. And guys don't want to do any of that shit anyway. Fucking be the power behind the throne. Learn how to cook and dress nice and dance. And give a good back rub and a good foot rub. Oh, 22. Stephanie Rule is the worst. I haven't seen her on TV a lot recently, but I got a day job again, so I probably wouldn't. And I wouldn't seek her out because she is the worst. And again, it's more of that hyper editorial, hyper emotional. I mean, dude, fucking have some self-respect for Christ's sake. 23. Still no mention of turnout from professional analysts who hired to examine the data. Exactly one story on Vox discusses data vendor Catalyst. Yeah, they have some cool ass fucking technology. I'm gonna look forward to digging into that in front of 2020. They were the ones that got into the percentages of who was actually turning out, and the dismal turnout amongst voters under 30 especially, but under 40 and under 50 as well. Fucking pathetic. Um, so there's something, there has to be something to turn out if they don't fucking talk about it. And again, is it a conspiracy? At this time, I'm starting to feel like maybe it is a conspiracy. Maybe there's certain things they just don't say, or maybe nobody. It never occurred to them. I don't know. They seem like smart people. I mean, I'm smart, but I'm not any smarter than anybody else looking at the same shit. So anyway, Catalyst, Catalist. I'll throw a link in the chat after I close out. So this is Artisan Politics, the video podcast. I'm Jason Everett Miller, streaming live on Facebook right now. I believe I'm recording this. I'm not recording. I think I can download it from Facebook, so I won't worry about it. Recording this, I'll post it over on YouTube as well when we're done. If you want to come say hi in the hangout here. Oh wait, where's my hand? Oh, I'm kind of backwards. Ooh, right there. If you want to come hang out in the hangout, click on the link. Come say hi. In the meantime, I'll keep ranting. 24. Facebook is the worst offender in modern corporate scandals, ? Not even close by many magnitudes of danger. And that's absolutely fucking true. Every single one of these companies hyperventilating over Facebook and whatever their specific metadata policies are with regards to how they allow companies to micro target consumers based on what they're into. Fucking who cares? It's all been way overblown, and most of these people don't even understand the half of any of that technology, and they just hyperventilate constantly. It makes me wonder if like MSNBC and Apple, Microsoft, remember that, MSNBC, another big ass fucking company, and Apple, fucking Tim fucking Cook's been all over Facebook's jizz on this. If they're trying to come up with like some sort of competing VR social network or some shit, some sort of competing thing to take on Facebook, because they have leveraged their propaganda. And that's where I'm starting to think that Maybe we need to refocus our efforts on government, taking control of government, and re-regulating industry and re-regulating corporations to the point where they aren't their own worst enemy and our own worst enemy at the same time. Because I guarantee you, despite the fucking rhetoric and despite the results of their bullshit, regulation works, and well-regulated companies make more fucking money, and people are happier, and we don't kill the planet. Fuck, it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. I'm very pro-capitalist. I'm very anti uh, uh, anarchist. I'm anti thinking any large organization is going to self-regulate. Doesn't fucking happen. Voters regulate the government. Government regulates corporations. Let's fucking get on it. All right, number 25. This is again more corporate shenanigans, and I don't know. I hate to bag on any one discipline because sometimes those people are the ones that bred my butter. But there seems a strain of thinking in the people who run companies that killing every single little teeny tiny bit of investment in your product and shaving off the tiniest margin and percentage to make the most amount of profit is the most sustainable way to run a company. It's clearly not the case. And part of that is government regulations again. So number 25 is cellulose acetate. It's a plant-based synthetic fiber that uses petro-based substitutes. Fake green. So they're allowed to call themselves cellulose acetate by law, even though they contain fucking petro-based substitutes. Absurd, right? More gaslighting. It's a fucking manufactured reality. We need more real reality. And we, Cavett Emptor, we're the fucking consumers of all this shit. It's our fault for not being more curious and having higher standards. For one, I'm raising my fucking standards because I got to, like I said, I have a young son. I need to make sure this fucking planet survives for him and for your sons and daughters. And all the sons and daughters yet to be fucking born. And cellulose acetate's the problem. Just kidding. But it's a symptom. It's fucking bug. It's a bug, but now it's a feature because we shaved 1/16th of an inch off this part so we could save X per unit and make this much more profit. But now that fucking thing doesn't work right, and it breaks in 6 months. But oh well, they just have to buy a new one, so we make more money. Big scar. So fuck that shit. Twice on Sunday. 26, Mattis resigns. Oh yeah, fucking. So we're getting closer to the 27, President Pelosi. That's a fun one. So 26, Mattis resigns. I mean, of course Mattis resigns. I mean, as soon as Trump put his grubby paws in Mattis's fucking playpen, game over, and preemptively pulling out of Syria and not telling his Secretary of Defense was definitely going to make sure that Mattis was going to fucking exit stage left. Didn't surprise me a bit, nor did his going away letter. And I do believe he was probably one of the few adults in the room, and he kept our shit in check overseas. And as soon as Trump decided, oh well, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and domestically, now it's time for me to turn my eyes up to the military. I got this shit. I could have been a general. So yeah, Mattis resigns. Sad day for our country, but actually, I think in hindsight, good day. We need more. I mean, he basically fell on his sword for us. If you haven't read that letter, read that letter. Number 27, President Pelosi. So I'm convinced that Mueller's going to have more than enough to get rid of Pence and Trump, several cabinet secretaries, and probably more than a few representatives, and maybe a senator or two, depending on how much obstruction of justice, how far the obstruction of justice goes. Um, I believe Bob Barr. I'm sorry, all these people are giving him shit, but I think he's giving very nuanced and loyal. If you ask those kinds of questions, that's fucking Kamala Harris pissed me off today because she's asking questions that are pure hypothetical and expecting non-hypothetical answers. It's absurd. And I think he gave a very nuanced answer. She said, "Hey, if the ethical board comes back and says that you should recuse yourself, under what circumstances would you not take their advice?" And he goes, "If I disagreed." And she goes, "In what way?" It's a hypothetical, dude. I don't know what their fucking opinion is. So, but if I disagree with it, I would be obligated not to fucking follow it. So if they came back with a reason that was no reason at all, you should not recuse yourself for some very non-legal reason. Where he went wrong is he should have followed up. And I think he kind of said this anyway, but there's no reason for me to think that whatever they come back with is something I would disagree with. So I mean that probably would have put a pin in it. But the guy's a lawyer, dude. They fucking parse words to a ridiculous degree. In another life, if I hadn't gone the career direction I did, I probably would have been a lawyer. Which is why I can recognize. I don't know. I think he's a Trojan horse, dude. I honestly, I heard Jonathan Turley talking about him today. I've been listening again. I've been listening to podcasts, which is nice. Um, Not the mainstream media ones; they don't cuss, obviously, but the real podcasts, which are hilarious. If you haven't, go on Spotify and listen to some podcasts under the political. What's my favorite right now? The Daily Zeitgeist is fucking awesome. Um, uh, uh, Big Gay Politics is fucking awesome. Dumb gay politics is fucking awesome. Lesbian and a straight woman, and they're fucking hilarious and awesome. And a couple others, which is how I was able to find out that hey, I can cuss on a podcast. Awesome. Don't have to watch my language. So President Pelosi. So fucking Mueller's gonna come back with all of it, dude. He's gonna take all the motherfuckers out at the hip, and I think Barr, who's Mueller's buddy and is a fucking Justice Department stalwart, I think he fucking conned his way into that job, and I think he's gonna back Mueller's play 110%. And I think they're gonna review that sitting president can't be indicted bullshit because they're gonna have so much evidence that hypothetical situation will be blown out of the window because we will now have concrete fucking evidence. Um, and that's where I think it's going to go. And I think we're going to be saying hi to President Pelosi before the end of 2019. And she ain't fucking pardoning anybody. So say hello to prison. Everybody wants them in chains. Put that shit in your brain. President Pelosi. And dude, if President Pelosi came in and said, you know what, I'm good, man. My VP is going to be somebody who I want to be president um, when I'm done serving out the rest of this term, right? I'm not going to run for another term, kind of like Johnson. Um, but my VP is some young buck, whatever progressive woman would be awesome. Um, Maybe Kamala Harris. I don't know. She kind of pissed me off today, but I can do bygones. And her progressive creds aren't where I'd like them to be. But dude, everybody has issues. 28. Why the impeachment is the cure for all that ails us. I think impeachment combined with indictment is going to be the fucking 1-2 punch for this infection, and it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be kind of the shot in the arm democracy in America needs to confront the challenge of climate crisis, which is it's coming. It's already here. If you don't understand that and you don't see that, you're not paying attention. Um, Not sure who's watching. A couple people watching still. No chats. So we'll just keep on rolling. It's about 10 to 9 here in Minneapolis. That means it's 9 to 10 on the East Coast. And 10 to 7 on the West. You're watching Artisan Politics. I'm Jason Everett Miller. You can check us out at artisanpolitics.com. It's a blog. That's where I've been writing, have blog posts going back to 2008 and Obama's election. That's kind of where I got my start as a political geek. It was on Talking Points Memo, actually, when they first had the Readers Cafes. And when they decided to close it down, they said, hey, per our terms of agreement, you own all this content on your blogs. would you like an export of your blogs? I said, yes, I would. Thank you very much. So I got an XML file of all my blogs from Talking Points Memo, and I was able to create Artisan Politics using that content. And since then, so the last, I don't know, 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So like 10 years ago, I did that for a couple years to like 2010-ish, and then took a break, and then Artisan Politics was born. And then like for the last 4 years, I've been blogging there. Obviously, no comments because I didn't have nearly as much traffic, but maybe now. Check it out. I'm also looking for writers. So if you like the tone, if you like the voice, if you like the idea of artisan politics, which really all that means is, dude, politics is super important to everything we do in life in America, in a representative democracy. We should do it in an artisan fashion. We want artisan beer, we want artisan food and crafts and all this other artisan bullshit. Why not politics? Why not all of our relationships? There's politics involved in everything we do, interpersonal relationships, relationships at work, and then obviously politics with regards to governments and businesses and fucking local school board. So artisan politics just seeks to elevate the conversation. We're not always going to agree, and we may even disagree in a way that leaves us both saying, motherfucker. But at the end of the day, we're still all citizens of this country, and if we can get 60 or 70% of us participating in any given conversation, I feel like we're going to get to the right thing, based on our history and based on our creed and our ideals and our nature. So, yay, America. uh, all right, Medicare for all. Oh, we're already up to 29. Yep, 29. Okay, Medicare for all versus outsourced single payer, for profit slash nonprofit. And the subhead was whatever way needs to pay for everyone and everything. So this is really tied directly to my current day job, which is working for the largest healthcare um, organization in America and one of the largest in the world, actually. And I went in there kind of far left, in my opinion, in terms of Medicare for all and single payer and how it should work in America. And then I started to learn about this company that's hired me, and obviously they're paying me and to do a certain job that has nothing to do with actually delivering health services. But I had to look into all the things that they're doing. And I came to the conclusion I had no choice but to come to the conclusion that there's no fucking way the government can do all that shit on their own. Not going to happen. Medicare for all, as written, is not going to work in America. That said, I do believe there's going to be some sort of Medicare for all framework that emerges from that conversation. And I believe that the company I work for and companies like it actually have already been doing a lot of the work that's going to make Medicare for all a huge success. And it's going to be it's going to be a private public partnership. Um, the simple fact of the matter is the government can't scale to cover that many people 100%. Can't do it. It's just not going to happen. There's going to be private delivery. And most private commercial efforts in America are going to be for profit. But the key to a high profit is lower cost. And the company I'm working for is laser focused on lowering the cost of healthcare in America and understanding the data underneath the drivers of costs. Because whoever pays for it, whether it's the government or your company, your employer, or whoever, insurance companies, whatever, whoever's footing the bill, the costs are going exponential. And in large part because we're older and sicker and more stressed and less certain of life than ever before in America. There are health consequences to that paradigm. And it's reflected in the cost of healthcare in America. Now, granted, there are some bad players. The pharmaceuticals need a round turn. This gets back to my idea that if we had a 50 state federal system for healthcare delivery in America that set the standard and then held everybody to that standard, it wouldn't matter if the ultimate deliverer of those services was for profit or nonprofit. It would continue to be a mix just like it is today. And there's a lot of for-profit companies. My company, as a matter of fact, delivers services to Medicare, Medicaid, state agencies, um, the VA. So they're already outsourcing a lot of public medicine, including Medicare. So this idea that Medicare for all is some sort of silver bullet to what ails us is wildly optimistic. And bless their heart, I was the same person, but now I have more information. So you should remain open to the idea that what we're lacking is a proper system of healthcare system regulation and personal incentives, citizen incentives to pursue a healthier lifestyle. And a lot of that is, hey, dude, if we can solve like living wage, housing, childcare, maternity leave, family leave, vacation, kill that Protestant worth that could bullshit. Start preparing for automation and UBI. And there's a lot of things we could be doing as a society that would make us healthier and would lower the cost of healthcare. And as a matter of fact, a lot of health insurance companies, I suspect, would stop doing it simply because it would no longer, uh, the margins would be really small. So, you might get more into delivery as opposed to insurance. So eventually, Medicare for all might be the only insurer, and all the current healthcare companies have moved into healthcare services because, dude, the data involved and the AI, the technology, coming advances, biotech, personalized pharmaceuticals, all of it, if we can figure out a way to do it at a reasonable cost, is going to uh, lengthen our lifespans exponentially. So clearly, these people are business leaders. They understand that they're going to have to diversify their revenue streams and do other things. Um, but this idea that we can just simply wave a magic wand, a single pair magic wand, and all of a sudden the healthcare system in America is going to be fixed is fucking dangerously naive. And I used to have it. I'm not afraid to say I changed that opinion. uh, Number 30, Boehner's pitching weed. Dude, I shit. John Boehner pitching fucking weed to investors is almost enough proof to prove to me that we're living in a simulation. Because that's just fucking too good, dude. And it just goes to prove you, it doesn't matter what the status quo is. We can fucking change things overnight. John Boehner pitching weed. Maybe it'll maybe it'll help him with his anxiety and his fucking emotional control problems. Oh, Mr. President, I'm really gonna miss my job. 31. So America has been drawing checks on our potential for 240 years. This is a conversation I had with my mom. We were talking about this disconnect between Americans' view of themselves and the reality of our history. And what's funny is that marketing pitch has kind of worked on a global scale. Um, uh, there's a little tarnish on it now and a little rust with the Trump phenomenon, but by and large, people still want to come to America. And we've been shouting how great we are for 240 years, and we're not awesome. Depending on who you talk to, we're pretty fucked up. So maybe we can stop that. Maybe we can all start thinking more globally as humans. I'm an Earthling. And in a similar vein, sorry, fucking boomers. What have you done lately? Every conversation I have of a political nature with anyone over the age of 50, basically, is, oh, we marched and we protested. Um, and then they're like, oh yeah, some boomers are fucked up, but not me. I'm great. So I've started to call them the not me generation. Um, and at a certain point, to fix anything, you have to take responsibility for what you fucked up. And the boomers have been in charge of shit since the late 70s, fucking period. I mean, the World War II generation were the last generation who started to retire early and turn over to their second in commands, who were boomers. And the boomers, when it got time to turn that shit over to Gen X and retire, said, fuck that shit, I'm in charge. And that's where we're at now. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of boomers who took the opposite track. There's a lot of Gen Xers who said, fuck it, I'll build my own thing. A lot of millennials who said, fuck it, I'll build my own thing. A lot of people in different blah, blah, blah. I'm painting with a broad brush, of course. But they seem one of the of the three generations who are adults right now, four generations now who are adults, they seem the ones who are most reluctant to be self-reflective. Um, number 33, Rashida, is it Tlaib? From Detroit, more than enough for Trump. Yeah, I haven't changed my opinion on that. She's fucking awesome. Um, and I hope she's a fucking model for all the representatives to come. You know, the House of Representatives needs to average in age in the 30s. Like they can start in their 20s for fuck's sake. 25? Is it 25? Man, it can't be that young. I mean, AOC's 29, so maybe it's 28. Whatever the fuck it is, it should be 20s, late 20s to early 40s and out back into the fucking workforce and do something. Um, but during that time period, when you're at your most ambitious and creative and spunky, fuck yeah, get in there, kick ass, take names. I am severely impressed, and I'm not easily impressed. 34. Media bias is off the rails. So dumb on purpose? Question mark. Their fucking tone creates conflict. So we already had that conversation earlier. I said I knew I wrote it down. Yeah, it's obnoxious. And you know, I guess at what point if you're gonna um take that from like some talking head with all this bullshit around the screen, why not just tune into somebody like me directly? Fuck them. Um, I'll listen to them for you, and I'll come in here and say you're not missing anything. 35. Fuck Jake Tapper too. Sorry, Jake. Fuck you. Um, but again, more stupid fucking questions, dude. Stop asking stupid questions. They have to know they're stupid, and if they don't know they're stupid, there has to be somebody in that organization that knows they're stupid and can put somebody smart on the air. So maybe it is on purpose. Maybe there is a conspiracy. It's the lizard people. 36. Uh, fucking liars on the right. Every fucking word out of their mouths. I mean, yeah, that's true. And it's not, you know, I gotta caution because surprisingly, a lot of staunch Republicans from days of yore have now come out as moderates, I guess you could call them. Do they still believe in the same policy prescriptions that they believed in 10 years ago? Because despite the racism and the misogyny and the straight up crazy, all the policies are exactly the same. So your newfound appreciation for the American experiment, I'm going to have to take it with a grain of salt until you start supporting candidates who believe the exact opposite of what you used to support. And I'm looking at you, fucking lady from MSNBC, Nicole Wallace, and Steve Schmidt, um, and several others. I like what you're saying. I appreciate what you're saying. But I have yet to hear you reconcile what you're saying today with fucking policies you supported 10 years ago. That's all I'm going to say. 37. So the writer of Bush's torture memo is somehow an expert on impeachment now. Fuck you, Woo. Yeah. again, more sycophants, out of the woodwork to jump on the Trump bandwagon. It's written in ink. The internet, it's in ink. You can't escape any of this shit. You escaped it in the 90s. That's too much tape. Nobody's going through all that shit. But now, boop, boop, boop. Pretty soon, I'll just tell my AI to go find everything you ever said about X, Y, and Z, and it's going to go right on my fucking screen. And I'll make a little funny fucking thing and post it and get a million hits and make some money. And you'll be like, 38. Oh, fucking traffic issues. Okay. So for most of the last year and some change, I was starting my own company, and it didn't really go the way I would have liked. So I started looking for my own job. So I've been home for a long time, not having to do a commute. Before that, I worked from home for 2 years, so I haven't had to be out there amongst the mere mortals, trying to get to work every day at a certain time. And oh my fucking god, I don't know. Is it just Minneapolis? Because I cuss a lot as though it's just Minneapolis, but I'm starting to think maybe it's not just Minneapolis. Maybe people are Americans in particular, but people generally speaking. I don't know. I haven't driven everywhere, so clearly this is all contextual to where I'm at. Um, but is are everybody just assholes? Does nobody understand the difference between the brake and the gas? Can they not keep a consistent amount of distance between them and the car in front of them at a consistent rate of speed, just using the gas pedal? Did nobody ever teach them that shit? Have we progressed beyond the point where people are actually able to drive given the number of cars on the road? Do we have to figure out artificial intelligence driving systems to make that happen? So the conversations I have with my kid in the car when he's saying, "Daddy, do you like the cars?" "Yeah, I like the cars. They're all right." "You don't like the drivers, though?" I'm like, "No, I don't like the drivers." Um, I was like, I gotta fix it." He's like, "How you?" Uh, or I was like, they don't know how to drive." He's like, "How you gonna teach them how to drive?" I'm like, "I don't know if I can teach them how to drive. I might just have to fix it." So I don't know, people slow the fuck down. Like, if there's a gap and someone's trying to get into that shit and they got their blinker on, fucking let off the gas, give them more room, let them get over. I mean, it's obnoxious. And I'd really be curious. I mean, if you're just commenting on the YouTube stream or on the Facebook uh, post of wherever this ends up, um, you know, are people assholes where you live too? Like, is this everywhere? Are everybody just dicks and they can't fucking focus several seconds ahead? Like, most people seem surprised by everything that's happening on the road. Oh, we're they just get in their car and they're like, "I'm gonna go drive. Oh, I think I'll go that way. I think I'll go that way. Oh shit, I think I'll go this way." Like, and it's clearly they go that way every fucking day. Do you not know that you should be all the way over to the left based on your commute, or all the way over to the right based on your commute? Do you not understand that when you see that sign, you should probably be making your way over to the right so you're not fucking being a dick and cutting across 3 lanes of traffic? Like, it all seems like common sense to me, but clearly it is lost on far too many people. Number 39. Hey, we're getting to the end. I'm only going to do 42 per show. And there's an inside joke on that. And if you leave a comment on the stream, um, I'll leave you a fucking sticker. Oh, I guess I should give you a reward, right? I'll give you a hey, hey. Um, so only 42 things per show, however long that takes, whatever callers I get. None this time, but maybe next time. Um, Number 39, 700 miles of wall already fucking exist. This whole thing is just another con by the Don. And that's fucking fact, dude. It's fact. And his sycophants get on TV and go, "That's a goddamn lie. It's a fucking crisis." None of it's true. It's all wrong. It's all factless. There's no data behind anything they're saying. The Secure Fences Act was passed bipartisanly and overwhelmingly in 2006. Since 2006, we've spent billions of dollars building fences and walls along the southern border, reinforcing the border patrol agents, putting electronic surveillance into place. Are there holes? There's always going to be holes. Do we have new technologies now, 12 years later, or since the last time we did an upgrade? Yes, of course. We probably need less than 10 miles of new wall or new fences or new anything. Um, that should just be some like fucking interior department commission or whatever the fuck. Like, dude, this should not be a national conversation by any stretch. This is normal. You have a country sort of things. There's no crisis. Immigration, illegal immigration has been falling for years. It is overwhelmingly people who came here legally and decided never to leave. So stop being fucking idiots about this fucking subject. 40. American military and the international order. So I alluded to this earlier in the program, but um, I was always, and I'm a vet. I was in the Navy for 10 years during the 90s. I've been all over the world on Uncle Sam's dime. It was fucking awesome. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Um, that said, I came to the conclusion after having served and after having seen what's happened since 9/11, never ending war, obviously, um, that it was that projection of America was the problem, not how it was being used. So I I read this editorial or opinion piece by this. It might even been a comment on a Facebook post or some shit. Um, Basically, the whole gist of it was the whole reason we have a global supply chain and sort of a fairly robust and agreeable global commerce system is because the US military is a hegemony. It's fucking everywhere. We got bases fucking everywhere. Um, it's almost like a connective tissue. It's a stable, as destabilizing as it is in certain geographies, it's globally more stabilizing than it's destabilizing. Um, I could buy that. I never thought of it that way. It was always my opinion that we should close every fucking base around the globe and reopen every base that we closed in the United States and create some sort of, conservation corps or whatever. Use that money for other ends. But climate change is coming, or climate change is here. The climate crisis is emerging. There's nationalism reemerging. There's people are scared, blah blah blah, scarcity, all of it, right? This may be the exact wrong time to do that. So the only other choice is to make sure that we have the right people at home telling our military what the fuck to do. We could very easily be a force for good on a global scale, and we're really well trained, and we're funny, and we're kind of the smartest of the smart from the lower classes in America. So just make sure that our fucking leaders are doing what they're supposed to do, and the military is going to do a fucking good job, and you're going to be proud of them. And we don't have to be in ever-ending wars. And you know what? We can go back to the time when most people in the military never even saw a fucking weapon. I never even carried a weapon until I got to combat camera. So yeah, I spent like 8 years in the military without ever even seeing a weapon. So um, it doesn't have to be a military thing. And honestly, Star Trek, right? That's a military-esque organization. So when we start thinking about moving out into the stars, we need discipline. Humanity needs discipline. There's nothing inherently wrong with this military mindset. We just need the right political willpower to make sure it's not used for bad ends. And that leads right into 41, private versus public. Stop wrecking industries. So, the new thing is let's turn the public school system into a private school system because competition will make it better. And fucking libertarians, dude, they're killing us. Um, and their takeover of government is complete. 30 plus states are fucking full on batshit crazy when it comes to actually running a government that provides for its people. Like they've bought into this idea that government is the problem. Government is evil. It's ridiculous, of course, but that's what they believe, and that's what they've convinced the pathetic fucking few who actually turn out to vote of the problem. despite the actual evidence. So let's leave private private and public public, right? There's certain things, some of them will be a hybrid. Like I said before, I believe medicine now, because of how it's grown up over the last 40, 50 years in America, is going to be a public private partnership. I actually think education, the private public partnership for education worked well until we passed laws that that wrecked the funding of it and shifted the bulk of the costs onto the students. But prior to that, it was working pretty good. It was we've had a public private thing in education since the founding of the country. So again, we let short term profit fuck with our long term planning. And that's not to say that nobody's going to profit. Dude, people are going to fucking profit. There's still going to be rich people. There's still going to be poor people. But the difference is we're not going to let people die on the fucking street anymore. No more kids dying on the street. Can we agree on that at least? Can Bezos give up half his shit? I think he can. Maybe a little more than half. Oh, actually, he's given up exactly half. Way to go. What's her name? I don't even know her name. Meredith or something. Way to go, man. Get fucking paid. You built that company with them. You deserve it. Dude, I haven't even gotten rich yet from all my shit, but I'm gonna give a decent payday to my ex for having put up with my shit for 10 fucking years on my way towards what's coming next. Fucking absolutely. 42. Kind of ending on a fucking shitty note. Mark Morgan. I've never heard this guy. I heard him on a what was he on? Fucking Anderson Cooper. That's the Silver Fox gay CNN guy I was thinking of earlier. He was on Anderson Cooper just lying up a storm about the fucking border and shouting down this Hispanic guy that was like, dude, none of that shit's right. None of those numbers are correct. You're telling lies. And the guy's like, no, you lied. He's like shouting him down, like, it's a crisis. Um, uber fucking over the top Trumpian, like off the rails. So, data and stats get shouted down in favor of fear and anecdotes and bullshit. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I am fucking done with all that shit. I think y'all are done with that shit too. Um, I guarantee fucking Mueller's gonna have the Mueller, Mueller. Good, I said it right. I think in my head I was saying Mueller for the whole time, and then I read a story about him where he corrected someone's pronunciation. So Mueller has the goods, and I think his team is going to deliver a fucking report that is unassailable and puts all these motherfuckers away. And then we're going to have a reset, and then it's going to be up to us at that point. And I think 2020 is going to be very instructive. I think whatever Nancy Pelosi does with the presidency, and honestly, I wouldn't even mind if she ran for her own term if that's what she wants to do. I think it'd be way more powerful to pass the torch. Um, I don't know who to yet. I haven't met. I like Tulsi Gabbard, but she has some things in her past that I need to get over. Again, every candidate has that shit. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good right now. So anyway, Artisan Politics. I'm Jason Everett Miller. You can find us at www.artisanpolitics.com. You can find us at facebook.com/artisanpolitics. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Miller MSP or Facebook/Jason Everett Miller. And I will see you on the next show. I'm gonna try. I don't know if I'll get to 42 items this week, but maybe I will. Have a great night. Cheers.